Hey, Nation, Harry here. I am with Kyle Yenser from MicroAge. Kyle, good day to you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Good, good. Hey, I got to tell you a funny story, and I'm gonna age myself, but I don't care. But in the early 1980s, so my summer job was on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. Grew up in Alaska, and had a little pocket change when I got back to college that fall. So I went down the street on Colorado Boulevard. I went to the University of Denver, and I went to a microwave store and bought one of the early Apple II Pluses, 40 character uppercase screen. Had to buy the 80 character extender, the this, that, and the other, and used VisiCalc. So I have fond memories of MicroAge. That was back in the day, as they say. Quickly, why don't you tell us what MicroAge is today? Because I in our rehearsal, I realized you don't have the geography of the stores.
Yeah, absolutely. No, MicroAge is a managed service provider and a value-added reseller. Meaning that obviously we provide managed services for a number of clients coast to coast. But in addition to that, we sell them hardware, software, cloud services. We're an incredibly strong force in the Office 365 and Azure space, and do quite a bit of business surrounding that, which sort of curtails into a lot of MSP activities.
Yeah. Well, I recently teamed with a couple of well-known analysts in the tech space. One came from IDC. They're over at The Leading Indicator. Leading Indicators is the company name. And we just came out with a study after extensive interviews with MSPs. And ours was, the bottom line is, we basically were trying to define what is an MSP, because there's confusion about percentage of revenue, remote management, this and that. So I'll leave it at that. Then you reached out and said, hey, you have some thoughts on what is the modern MSP, right? And so that was very timely. I'm glad you have carved out a few minutes. So, sir, I'm going to just hand it over to you. Talk to me about the modern MSP, the gap analysis you alluded to in the rehearsal, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Realistically, a modern MSP is one that is, positioned to adopt a lot of the disruptive technology changes that we have out there, and potentially shed some of the baggage of, procedures and ways that we've, more or less always done things. From that perspective. I mean, one big clue on, if your MSP is, going down the modern route is, are they talking about Intune? We're living Microsoft Intune, that is, we're living in a world, and especially over the last, 16 months, where a lot of traditional processes were broken down due to everything being very on-premise centric. We manage everything on-premise, from AD on-premise. We remote into the computers when we're inside the network. And some organizations hobbled along by getting into VPN or doing a quick and dirty VDI deployment to get people inside of the the four walls of the corporate fortress, if you will. Intune, is a new technology that Microsoft, unveiled a few years back.
Yeah.
That is the management of a, device, whether it be a PC, phone, tablet, anywhere, anytime. And some of the traditional incumbent products around this were, either the MSP RMM softwares that were used to perform a lot of these duties. But, we live in a world where there are native technologies within the Microsoft Windows 10 operating system to provide some of these similar functions, such as software deployment, update deployment, configuration, as well as what is my personal favorite, what is known as zero touch user initiated deployment, where you're a new user that comes onto the company. I register your device with Autopilot. I ship it to you. You sign in, get a cup of coffee, come back, your software is loaded, your device is configured, you're ready to work, and IT had zero involvement. Obviously oversimplifying things a little bit, but if your MSP is not, at least talking about Intune, working on the roadmap to Intune for your organization, I mean, that's kind of clue number one. The other part that kind of goes hand in hand in that is, How entrenched are they in the M365 platform? I mean, I get it. Most people's Exchange emails moved up there, but are we still heavily reliant on file servers? Are they talking about, getting rid of your file servers, moving that content into Teams and SharePoint to promote rich collaboration? As well as digging deeper into pieces of the M365 stack, such as using Power Automate to automate some of the tasks we used to do with scheduled tasks and so on and so forth. So, deep knowledge, much beyond just the basics of M365, is kind of a very important cornerstone of this as well. And the Azure AD story too, pivoting the organization, working to pivot the organization towards an Azure AD based model versus a legacy on-premise Active Directory managed model per se. A couple of other bullet points too is, not necessarily just lifting and shifting what you have into the cloud. That's great. You got rid of the on-premise data center aspect of it, but you're taking an old technology and you're putting it into a new box. So wherever applicable, stop standing up SQL servers, leverage Azure SQL, VDI deployments, Windows Virtual Desktop on Azure. Leveraging containers for things such as SFTP servers. Most businesses use these for EDI transactions or whatnot.
Yeah.
But you don't have to have a whole server that you have to patch and you have to manage. And then most importantly, leveraging backup products within the cloud per se. And I mention Azure a lot because that's a big driving force behind where a lot of our corporate clients end up moving their data into, just because some of the rich synergies with M365 and Azure AD and whatnot. And then, we haven't touched on monitoring, but that's a real biggie that I don't want to get lost in the shuffle, because in a modern MSP world, you can't have a monitoring solution that, requires sitting inside the premise to do the monitoring. You have to have a solution that is capable of monitoring both inside and outside the network. So kind of taking all of these things together, your MSP should be talking about these things, as well as road mapping and assisting in the transition of these resources and services to the cloud, because quite honestly, there's just a smarter way of doing things now.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. One is I want to touch on one additional topic, and then maybe I'll just offer up some thoughts. But right now, I'm literally about to drop a piece for a well-known telecom unified communications client about hybrid work. And this morning I was just researching it. I'm trying to, add some real content value here. So I went and looked at a CBS News poll that came out last month. And if you took, there were 3 responses. Want to work back in the office, want to work at home alone, or hybrid. And if you took the hybrid and remote work, it added up to 57%. So where I go on to say the majority of, we used to know how work worked, but what I'm contending is working is now changing, right? Work works differently now. Any thoughts on hybrid work from home? What's your position on that for the modern MSP?
For the modern MSP, that also brings a whole slew of additional challenges in there. Is now you're supporting users on a network that you have control over, and it might even be questionable whether the person who owns the network has control over it. I mean, somebody can work from a coffee shop. Literally, people can work from almost anywhere. So there at one point was okay, I checked the monitoring, the network's healthy, we know we don't have a network problem. Well, we recently, there was a call recently that I'm not sure how I came across the notes of or whatever, but they kept denoting that the person was, had 1 bar of Wi-Fi on their laptop. And they're like, you need to move closer to the AP. This is, something an MSP probably wouldn't have been talking about 2 years ago. Like, hey, can you move your computer closer to your access point at home? So there are elements of support at the, level one level that are, more or less new challenges. And that's largely in the form of helping support users with, their home or traveling network, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just a final observation is by stump speech. I've been doing some talking about this for, about almost 2 years. But you were hitting on it and you're headed in the right direction. So I did a piece called the Pocket MBA. And the idea being for MSPs, a 2-year MBA program, quite frankly, doesn't make sense. And I'm a life learner. I'm pro education, but these guys aren't going to Wall Street. Okay, bottom line. But you can do a little mini MBA, or what I wrote out was a pocket MBA. And the point is to be, and you're hitting on it. More of a business advisor, a little bit of an overused term, but now more than ever. So I don't know if you want to bring this plane in for landing with that thought. Now that I told you, I concur. I mean, are you doing webinars, business training? Are you helping MSPs think that way, your staff?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have a pretty good monthly webinar where, we roll through a number of these modern topics. I would say the one last month centered all around M365 security. I mean,
Yeah.
In the wake of incidents such as Colonial Pipeline and, the large food organization is slipping my mind. Breaches come out more and more and more and more. And even if you don't have any premium licensing within your M365 tenant, which by that I mean, something to get you Intune and Azure AD Premium, there's still basic security measures you can take. So, we recently hit a webinar where we outlined, like, here's what you can do if you have the regular licenses. Here's what you can do if you have premium licenses. And these are all security aspects you should be doing. And I think the month leading up to that, before that, was Teams governance. We've also done 2 webinars this year on Azure AD as well as Azure Active Directory Domain Services, what those mean for your organization. And I even want to say that we came out the gate swinging in 2021 saying it's 2021, it's time to get rid of AD. So kind of, going down through that. But yeah, we have a very good monthly webinar out there aimed at a lot of these topics, just to, get the thought process going, be a good business advisor, assisting and shepherding organizations through these transitions.
All right, Kyle. Well, sure appreciate your time, my friend. And you've added clearly more value than I did. I appreciate it, my friend.
No, thank you. I like that pocket MBA thing. I'm gonna look into that a little bit more.
All righty. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.